Welcome to another episode of Jets Afterburners. Unfortunately, Liam could not be here. He's still off his rocker right now, just enjoying his mojitos and all that good stuff, opening up great presents. But in place of Liam, we got the man himself, Luca, right here. Thank you, Luca, for coming on.
Of course. Always good to be on here.
And the main guest right here is our draft guru, the man himself, Dom C. Thank you, man, for coming on.
No, Dan, pleasure. Luke, and nice seeing you again. Always happy to hop on and talk shop, dude.
Absolutely. Now, I want to get right into it. We're going to start with possibilities at quarterback. A quarterback that I have in mind that I threw out there late Sunday after the Jets game, and it took a life of its own this past week. And I want to kind of dissect this because I caught some flack during the week and whatnot. It's this one here because, Sam Darnold's doing pretty good. And I kind of said, look, the Vikings are going to extend Sam Darnold. They found their franchise quarterback for their system. JJ McCarthy, a first rounder, will be expendable. Trade for him, have him sit behind A-Rod with John Dorsey as GM and a possibility of Kyle Shanahan as head coach if he gets let go, or you go for Ben Johnson. I know that this narrative is a little crazy. I know it's way out of the box, but let's be clear here. And I'm pretty sure that you guys will attest to this. How hard is it to find your franchise quarterback? Luca, how hard is it?
Well, I mean, just ask the Jets, right? Just ask us and the Browns over the last 20 years, right? I don't know what the number is, but I'm pretty sure there's a little meme out there that has that, if you're a Browns fan, you would know it, has all the graveyards of former quarterbacks. Mm-hmm. If you're a Browns fan, Jason Campbell, Tim Couch, Cody Kessler, Brandon Whedon, Brady Quinn. I'm trying to think of some other ones, but there's a long line list that the Browns, over the past 20 plus years have not found their franchise quarterback. They thought Baker Mayfield was the guy. They said he was too immature. They needed an adult in the room. So they get him out of Cleveland, and then they replace him with first Jacoby Brissett, then Deshaun Watson, which has been an absolute disaster. Yes. But if you're a Jet fan, we've only had temporary success with quarterbacks. And mostly, if we're being honest, veteran quarterbacks like Vinny Testaverde. I wasn't around for that, obviously. Ryan Fitzpatrick, the 2015 season. We had 2 good years of Mark Sanchez. We had, I guess, 4 games at the end of 2018 with Sam Darnold before his career went downhill with the Jets, not in total. Zach Wilson, absolutely horrible. Geno Smith revives his career in Seattle. And obviously we had good years with Chad Pennington as well. It's just like we've been through a cycle of quarterbacks. Like for the really bad franchises, that's where the problems start. They can find everything else, like the Jets. You find a Hall of Fame corner in Darrelle Revis. DeBrincat Ferguson, Nick Mangold, those guys, Kevin Mawai. It's just like we can draft everything. We can't get a quarterback. Mm. And even Aaron Rodgers is not the answer, in my opinion. But I got to say, Dan, real quick before we get to Dom, I'm not against the JJ McCarthy trade. That's one of those out-of-the-box ideas that I'm like, that sounds pretty good to me.
Now, Dom, again, how difficult is it to find a franchise quarterback in this league?
How difficult is it? I mean, how many franchise quarterbacks are there right now on the 32 teams, right? I mean, and this is just spitballing off the top of my head. Josh Allen's one. Lamar is one. God, I'm already drawing a blank. Is Jordan Love one? I'm not sure.
Right.
You know what I mean? It's that hard. Is Dak Prescott one? I'm not sure. Joe Brady or Joe Burrow's one. So, you got a handful of them out of 32 teams. And, it's really hard to find success and sustained success for that matter without finding one. We haven't had ours. We haven't had ours probably since, Joe Willie back in the day. So it is that hard. It's impossible. And it's funny because people just say, well, and this year in particular, you look at the 10 worst teams in the NFL, right? The 10th team is going to be 4-13. Last year, 4-13 would have got you Jaden Daniels, right? The Washington Redskins picked second overall. They were 4-13. Got arguably maybe a franchise quarterback out of it. This year, 4-13 might not even have you picking in the top 10. So it's all that, like, everything kind of has to fall into place. And even when it does fall into place and you think you found your guy, the little blonde from Utah, and when we're picking number 2 and that doesn't work. So it's a crapshoot nonetheless to try to draft your franchise quarterback.
Right.
There's a lot of luck involved in it as well. So, it's hard. And you talk about this Minnesota thing. Listen, on the surface, Dan, like, I get it. And I love the idea. I happen to be a big McCarthy fan coming out of the draft or coming into the draft last year. I was a very big McCarthy fan. I just don't see a realistic scenario that they're moving on from him. I mean, this was the plan. This was the plan to bridge and then, kind of ease McCarthy into it. You're now working with a rookie quarterback on a rookie contract with tons of cap because they clear up a lot of the mess that was left behind. Minnesota is going to be in a really, really good shape. And, if McCarthy's not ready, guess what? They just brought in Daniel Jones that they're paying the veteran minimum to. So there's your bridge quarterback there as well.
But Dom, you just checked off so many boxes right there on a franchise quarterback. Number one, got to be young, right? Got to fit the system. Everything has to fall in place. You got a 27-year-old in Sam Darnold that, not for nothing, I would love to take a chance on him if he would shake loose. Would he come back to the Jets? I don't know. You might have to overpay him in order for him to even consider the Jets. But him in Minnesota, everything is flying high for him. Like, again, ultimately, you have a head coach right there, a young kid, where if he found his guy, there's no way that he's going to put his chances on Daniel Jones. And that's where I see Sam Darnold as not just a pocket type of guy running your system. What do they call that again for a quarterback when he's just there? System quarterback. I think Darnold, he's just the quarterback that we had thought he was going to be out of USC. I don't look at him as being completely expendable. I think Minnesota is going to do everything that they can to surround him. In the event he gets to the NFC Championship game, I think all bets are off. That's their franchise quarterback. They're not going to let him go, and they're going to probably try to do anything they can to get more weapons for him. And JJ McCarthy might be that kind of dangling piece. And how funny would it be? It would be the most Jets-esque, right? The Jets trade their original pick this last year with Minnesota to bypass Brock Bowers, have it at Jimmy, who I actually like. They got Olu. I like the Olu pick.
Yeah.
And now we're trading our first this year for a possible JJ McCarthy signing. I really want to beat this to the ground, and I'll tell you why. And I'm going to pass it off to you, Luca. The reason for this is because I see a lot of the San Diego Charger. Yeah, I said it. San Diego Charger dynamic where they had a young kid named Drew Brees and they drafted Phillip Rivers. They were in this same issue here. They have two franchise quarterback, a known guy that's coming into his own and a rookie guy sitting the pine with a lot of expectation. They chose to move on from Drew Brees. And now, hindsight, was it a smart move? Drew Brees has a Super Bowl. Phillip Rivers has almost all the records out in with the Chargers, LA now. And you keep going down this rabbit hole of all these possibilities. In my humble opinion, I think JJ McCarthy will be there for the New York Jets to take a shot on. And one more thing, because I believe Afram said something here, not to start him early. Here, there it is. This is the big caveat with the 2025 Jets in the event you bring in, if you bring back Aaron Rodgers. You bring back Aaron Rodgers and you trade for JJ McCarthy, you're doing two things there. You're finally letting a young kid sit the pine and learn. This would be year number 2. This will be kind of like what Steve McNair did out with the Oilers, then / Titans. You're forcing Woody's hand to go against his nature in pushing a young quarterback out there. Then 2026 comes, it's JJ's team for the taking. Luca, what do you think?
I'm personally, if you want my estimate, if I was the GM it's again, we're all online GMs and crap, but my plan doesn't involve Aaron Rodgers next year. I do see your train of thought, and it's a very good win at that. But I think also as well, I think maybe this is the highest that McCarthy's stock is going to be in terms of trade value. So the Vikings might want to cash in on that. Obviously, they have Sam Darnold, and Sam Darnold's played outstanding this year. He's the Vikings, essentially, in my opinion, are overachieving. I mean, they're obviously overachieving what many of us thought, but he's been a big part in that, and he's been essentially their franchise guy. Obviously, you said maybe if they make the NFC Championship game, he's definitely their franchise guy. But it's going to get interesting in the offseason. As you said, it would be funny if the Jets, traded. Obviously, they traded back their first-round pick last year, and the Vikings ended up selecting McCarthy. Again, as I said earlier, I think it's a novel move. Will the Vikings be open to it? We don't know. And as I said earlier, my plan doesn't involve Rodgers, but I'd be down for McCarthy, as I said earlier. I think it's a novel idea. I think it's one that's like out of the box.
Luca, I'm going to interrupt you here. I'm going to put some perspective with Vinny's kind of post here. And I love you, Vinny. He says, I want no part of JJ McCarthy. We're dumping a one quarterback coming off of a season-ending injury. Let's place some perspective into this season-ending injury. Was it an ACL? Was it an MCL? Was it a torn rotator cuff? No. You know what that was, that season ender? That was a torn meniscus. But there's 2 procedures to repair a meniscus. One, you excise it, you cut it out, so you don't have that much left. The other one is a longer process, and that's where you suture it. You kind of tie it up. Whatever's breaking, you tie it up. So the integrity of his meniscus come February is intact, as if he never tore it. So it's not a gruesome injury like Joe Burrow had. He's practically fine. That's all it was. Mm-hmm. I'm going to put this to bed here. In the event, Dom, JJ McCarthy is there. What is the most that you would give up for him, thinking as a new GM, new head coach, this guy may be my future in 2026 behind Aaron Rodgers? What would be the most and let's say we have the 10th overall pick.
I mean, I think Minnesota's going to want number 10. I don't know if I would trade number 10 directly. I think that's probably a little bit of an overvalue. Listen, I want, for the record, I don't think it's happening, but I'm going to placate and play along with this hypothetical. But I think you could probably get away with, maybe a pick swap in the first round. You drop down to the end of the first round where Minnesota is and take JJ McCarthy as well. Maybe even a little day 3 filler for number 10. I think that's probably right around the ballpark of what would be a fair offer. So you're talking about McCarthy, Minnesota's first round, and maybe a day 3 pick for 10.
Okay. I would give up the first for me. For me, the 10th, the 11th, whatever the case, unless it's a top 3. A top 3, that's where we're going to kind of segue into in just a little bit with the draft class. But Luca, what would you give up if it's a possibility?
I wouldn't give up the first round pick straight up because I think there are still holes on this team personally, and obviously you got to build around the quarterback. I kind of like. I'm not gonna lie. I didn't really have a thought in my head, but I kind of like Dom's idea of flip flopping the picks, adding in like a day 3 pick, as he said. But like I don't know what day 2 picks we have because we traded the third for Devontae Adams.
Yeah, we got a high
Maybe
second and a low third. We have Detroit's third.
maybe that high second, but again, that high second is very close to where the Vikings will be at. So then you'll be waiting till the 3rd round, which is not ideal. So maybe that low third if possible, but if not, then you could throw in that second possibly.
Now, with that being said, right? Let's say that doesn't happen, and we land a head coach that's an innovator, right? A la the guy from the Detroit Lions, right?
Ben Johnson.
Ben Johnson. Is there a quarterback that we can take from the Lions, say Hendon Hooker, in which you would feel like, all right, you know what? A-Rod isn't coming back. Just to hold down the reins, would you trade for, I don't know if he's a free agent or you could trade for him and also draft a quarterback so he could learn behind him? What are your thoughts, especially on Hendon Hooker coming out of, college with Tennessee?
Well, Hooker had a phenomenal year his last year at Tennessee. I mean, I think he was 30 touchdowns, 2 interceptions. Really, really plus athlete, a dual threat in every sense of the word. Big guy, so on and so forth, strong arm. He did it for 1 year, right? He only really produced for 1 year. Before that, he was kind of, shaky prospect at best.
Right.
On top of that, Hendon Hooker next year is going to be 27 years old. So he was an old rookie coming in, a 5th-year player coming into college, played at Tennessee where it's a wonky offense, very, very quarterback friendly, not far from traditional, pro style offense. So personally, I wouldn't, I think there's other avenues that I would go besides Hendon Hooker. Like, yes, you love the athleticism. Yes, you love the big arm, but I mean, Jamarcus Russell had both of those as well. He had both the big arm and the athleticism, so on and so forth. I don't know if Hendon Hooker's an NFL caliber starting NFL caliber quarterback. I don't even think Detroit thinks so. That's why they just signed Teddy Bridgewater off the scrap heap to be, the backup just in case for the rest of the time. On top of the fact that, again, older prospect coming off a knee injury. He's a full year removed from that knee injury, but still had it nonetheless. That's probably one that I'm personally not even entertaining.
Now, what about Malik Willis, Luca? If the Jets would to bring in Malik Willis, how would you feel about that?
If it was either Hooker or Willis, I wouldn't touch him personally. Dom obviously mentioned the older side to Hendon Hooker, just to piggyback off that. And again, there's other avenues you could go. He's 27 years old, and like, do you really want to trade assets for a guy who could be like really, really bad? And you forget, this is not like a 1st-round quarterback like you did, like Dan, you said, JJ McCarthy. This guy is like a 3rd, 4th round. Like, you really got to have a really, really, really good coaching staff to get at least something out of him. And, what's that ceiling to that quarterback? Is that being like a Brock Purdy, or is that being somebody like top 20, 25, just like between the 20 and 25 range in terms of quarterback? We're looking for our franchise quarterback here.
Yes.
Not to mention the Jets also drafted Jordan Travis. Not that he's the franchise guy. You're taking another chance on a mid-round quarterback. Again, Hooker had a season-ending injury. Jordan Travis had a season-ending injury, and both of them are older prospects. So, again, you'd probably just want to keep Jordan Travis. Again, see what he does, I guess. But I wouldn't trade assets for either Malik Willis or Hendon Hooker. And I think Malik Willis was more of a flash in the pan kind of thing. If you want my honest opinion.
Well, yeah, I mean, he fizzled out. I mean, he was drafted and, he was a 3rd-round pick, but he was, given the chance to start in Tennessee and didn't have it, and, traded in the offseason for a 7th-round pick. So they pretty much just wanted to get rid of him. And he started a game or two in Green Bay when Jordan Love got hurt. And, he didn't flash, there's nothing in his, in his game in the NFL that I've seen that smells like franchise quarterback. And I think, if you're looking for that bridge, if we're talking about franchise quarterbacks versus kind of bridge to hold you over, and Malik Willis and Hendon Hooker, for that matter, any of these guys, sure, could they bridge you and make you, could they be serviceable at times? Sure. But you already got that on the roster. Like, that's the one thing that I don't understand what a lot of Jets fans talk about. Now, hear me out here, because I'm going to say something, and I don't want anyone to jump to conclusions. But you already got Tyrod Taylor on the roster, right? You're paying him $6.8 million next year.
Right.
The price of a bridge quarterback, right? Tyrod Taylor is going to offer you the same amount of ability, possibly even more, than a guy like Malik Willis and Hendon Hooker. So why even add something that you already have? Now, you talked about Jordan Travis. Again, late round pick. Personally, I wasn't, a fan of his film coming out. Again, had another kid who had a great senior year. I wasn't, he wasn't my favorite quarterback. I'll say that. Best case scenario with him is that he becomes Tyrod Taylor, right? A serviceable backup, and, will probably be a journeyman. And if he needs to step in for a couple games, you hope that he doesn't have like no touchdown, 4 interception games. He can just hold the line, toe the line for you. So if you're talking about bridge quarterbacks, I don't know why we have to talk about any other guys, because we already got 2 of them on the roster. Now, neither of them, I don't think, are going to be franchise guys. That's a different story. So could you draft a quarterback and run it back with one of those 2 guys, run it back with those 2 guys, and let those 2 and your drafted quarterback battle it out for 2025? Sure. That's an option. I don't know if that's the best option. It's not an option that is going to, make a lot of Jets fans feel warm and fuzzy, in trying to break this jinx that we've had for 14 years. But, I don't see how I don't see any upside in guys like Hooker or Malik Willis coming in and being the savior. And I'll even take it one step further. You haven't brought him up, but I know a lot of people are talking about Justin Fields. Like, same thing. Same thing. Like, I don't see the point in if you're going to get rid of Aaron Rodgers, you're going to probably do it with the idea that you're going to swallow the pill and take your medicine and get rid of a lot of the dead cap, right? So why are you going to add? You're going to be at a disadvantage cap wise anyway. Why are you going to add more subpar or average bridge guys to the quarterback room when you already have 2 there?
See, I'm always in the mindset of the old Mike Holmgren kind of path, right? Like, continue to draft quarterbacks until you hit one. Like, again, yes, they traded for Brett Favre, but they had Ty Detmer, Mark Brunell, Kurt Warner, Matt Hasselbeck. It's like nonstop. Just keep drafting. Now, as far as Jordan Travis, does anyone think that he's going to be a franchise quarterback? No one does. But at least there has to be a legit fair chance next year. And I get it. Tyrod Taylor, he's going to be our bridge quarterback. Whether we get another Justin Fields, is that a smart route to maybe have 2 of them? But I'd rather go into this, especially in 2025, with another quarterback in the draft. So now we're going to go into your repertoire, Dom. We're going to go into the straight up quarterback draft class of 2025. With that being said, let's say the Jets, there's no shot that we're going to get Shedeur Sanders. I'm torn on him. I like him, but I don't like the baggage. I don't like the Deion Sanders. Let's say he has a bad game. He's going to call out this guy, this offensive coordinator. That's to me, the downside of having a tremendous athlete like Shedeur Sanders. I love Shedeur Sanders. Don't get me wrong. If I had an opportunity to get his jersey, awesome. I got a freaking Colorado's Buffaloes hat just because of him. I don't want him as a New York Jet franchise quarterback. So what do we do?
Yeah, well, listen, truth be told, I like Shedeur Sanders. He's my favorite quarterback in this class. He's my highest rated quarterback. Barely there, but he's the only quarterback out of the 20 that, I scouted and graded out that got a first round grade. And he barely got it. I mean, he's a low first rounder for me. But that doesn't mean anything because quarterbacks are always pushed up the draft, and he's going to go high. I hear what you're saying, Dan, with the baggage. Like, first off, I don't think Dion would let him come to the Jets or come to an organization like this. I think he's going to kind of step in and play daddy on that sense. And to be honest, I don't blame him. I wouldn't want my son coming to a shit storm that you're walking into. But I think he's going to be out of the range. He's probably going to be, I suspect he's going to be the first quarterback taken off the board, especially if the Giants are there. There's a lot of buzz that the Giants are very, very keen on Shedeur Sanders, and rightfully so. He's a good quarterback, right? He's a good quarterback. He's a high floor guy, Right. He's not the traitsy. He's not going to wow you with his arm talent or his speed or his athleticism. Very average and all around the board in that sense. Where he does excel is, the way he understands the game, the processing, the ability to, his what he lacks in arm talent in terms of like zip on the ball and strength, he dominates with accuracy and throwing guys, throwing with anticipation and throwing guys open, using the whole field, understanding pre-snap reads, all that stuff is really where Shedeur Sanders, that's his calling card. Remember, he's had two quarterback coaches his entire career. One being his dad. And granted, his dad never played quarterback, but if your dad was a Hall of Fame football player, I'm sure he could teach you a little something about, that the mental aspect of the game. But his other mentor is Tom Brady, right? So that he understands how to play the game. He's that prototypical high floor guy, like, maybe not going to be a Pro Bowler every year. He's not going to be Josh Allen. He's not going to be Joe Burrow, but he could be a serviceable, a good starting quarterback in the league for many, many years. Cause I think he's tough. He plays with moxie. He stands in there and delivers the ball, right with heat right in his face. All that stuff. He's got some stuff, he does hang on to the ball a little too long. He's athletic, but he's not really athletic. He can move around the pocket, but he's not a true threat with his legs. So yeah, like Shedeur Sanders would be the guy that I would, say is probably the best quarterback in this class. It wouldn't surprise me if, other quarterbacks, Cam Ward for one, comes out and pops more right from the get-go. Because he's a different type of quarterback. I liken Shedeur Sanders, and since it's a Jets show, I think he's a little bit more athletic. Chad Pennington, right? Chad Pennington was the cerebral quarterback. He never put the ball in harm's way. He's not going to be a turnover machine. He's not going to make stupid throws. He throws guys open. Everything like the way Chad Pennington played the game smart. That's Shedeur Sanders. Shedeur Sanders does it with a little bit more, just a hair more athleticism than Chad Pennington, though.
Now, with that being said, let's say, again, the Jets have not drafted an Alabama quarterback since, is it Richard Todd or was it still Namath? Gotta go back.
Didn't they draft, was it McElroy? Was he on the team?
McElroy.
Yeah, but that was later in the rounds. I'm talking about first rounder.
Oh yeah, I don't know where Richard Todd played. I couldn't tell you.
I gotta check. But with that being said, what do you guys think about Jalen Milroe?
You want to take it, You want to take it, Luke?
Well, I want to say to answer Dan's question real quick. First off, Todd actually did play at Alabama.
Yep.
I don't have a ton of insight to Milroe, but it seems like he's more of a project. Like a project that I just wouldn't be willing to take on. And I got to ask Dom this as well. Like, I think a lot that I see, just my opinion, I think a lot of these quarterbacks, or some quarterbacks at least, I think when they get into the NFL, they struggle on reading defense and stuff. How good is Shedeur at that exactly?
Very.
You said he understands pre-snap motion and all that.
He understands what he's looking. He understands what the defense showing him pre-snap. He makes the adjustments post-snap. He can get through his progressions He uses the entire field, which I think is really important, which is very to the contrary of Milroe, and we'll get into Milroe in a second. But the way that he sees the game is the way exactly like you want a quarterback to see the game. Like he gets that. That's his calling card to where he's going to be a good NFL quarterback. Now, again, Shedeur Sanders is far from a perfect prospect. There's a lot of people that, I trust and that aren't as high on Shedeur Sanders. They say, you might get like a Bryce Young kind of output from him where, he's going to have good games, he's going to have bad games, and even the good games aren't that bad. And that just might be the growing pains of a young quarterback. But Shedeur Sanders has played in the spotlight. That's one thing that you're not afraid of with him. He's an older kid in the sense that he'll be 23 at the time of the draft, with, probably close to 40 starts under his belt, which is always a good thing. But yeah, I think, quarterback skills wise, mechanically, Shedeur Sanders has the goods. I just think that he's going to be capped athletically and physically. Like he just doesn't have the arm talent that some of these quarterbacks in this draft has. He doesn't have the athleticism that some of these quarterbacks in this class have. Now, Dan brought up Jalen Milroe. I love Jalen Milroe. I absolutely love the kid. However, as I say, and I've said it 1,000 times since the summer, he's not a guy that you want to draft and hand the keys to the car over right away. He's still much more athlete than he is quarterback right now. And when I say he's athlete, man, he is an athlete. There's a very good chance that he runs a sub 4.4 40. And if he runs in the 4.3s, he's going to go in the top half of the first round. Somebody's jumping on that athleticism. He's 6'2", 225 pounds. He's built like a running back, and he plays with the ball in his hand like a running back.
It sounds like the grading report that you're giving Milroe. It's kind of similar to what they pegged Lamar Jackson. And I remember that draft where Lamar Jackson was like this project and whatnot. And I think it kind of fits the mold where how you're displaying it, where you can't give him the keys right away. You got to let him sit. I really like him a lot. He has every intangible, big arm, accurate. But again, he plays out of the box, in which you need an offensive guru in there to kind of hone in those attributes.
Yeah.
And to me, that's where the big part comes in getting the absolute best head coach out there. Now I'm right before we went on, you were saying the Jets interviewed Arthur Smith for the second time. And like my good friend, Nick, he said, dude, we get Arthur Smith and it's going to hit like cocaine. It's like, dude, are you guys kidding me? Like, at what point is enough, man? Like, we don't need this. He's a failed head coach.
Yeah.
Please
listen. Anyone that you're interviewing right now, while the season's still going on, pretty much is a failed head coach, right? And listen, I don't blame them for interviewing. They're throwing a super wide net. They're casting a super wide net and just getting people in the door, trying to pick their brains. And again, there's probably a lot of these guys they're interviewing that really aren't head coach candidates, but they want to find out, what information they have. Maybe they'd be a fit as in another position. Like I said, Marvin Lewis was another guy who got a second interview today. I don't necessarily think Marvin Lewis is a true candidate for a head coach. I'm not going to say they're interviewing for like Rooney Rule stuff. I have no idea, but maybe, they need, if they, I'll just throw out a name. Just say it's, oh my God, what's the guy's name who was in Tennessee? Vrabel. Maybe, he can come on with Vrabel and be like a senior defensive assistant or something like that. Like, they're throwing out wide nets for everyone. So, yeah, I don't know. I don't know about Arthur Smith. I don't get it. I don't think he was good in Atlanta. I don't think he's been very good as an offensive coordinator in Pittsburgh this year. I know he had some good times in Tennessee under Vrabel. So, that's what got him the head coach job the first time. The Jets have an affinity with him. They interviewed him the last cycle, and supposedly that he was, one of the finalists. So before Saleh got the job.
If you don't mind, Dan, I was going to add real quick, and
Please.
I agree with Dom and all his points about Arthur Smith. Like Arthur Smith, I think had a little bit of success with the Steelers' offense a little bit early on with Justin Fields. Then when Russell Wilson came in, now they've lost. I think it was like 3-4 games in a row right now where the offense has sputtered. They lost to the Ravens. They lost to the Eagles. They lost to the Chiefs. They scored only, 10 points, which is miserable. But the one point that is thrown around on Jets Twitter, and it's by some people, it's not all, it's not you guys too, is the whole offensive coordinator, defensive coordinator thing. And the one thing I don't like is like, yes, in some points, whether you're an offensive background guy or a defensive background guy, it doesn't matter. In some points, yes, it depends on leadership. But when I hear the argument, well, look at the last offensive guy they hired. It was Adam Gase. Right. It's not that who they hired an offensive guy who was Adam Gase. Not that he was a flawed head coach already in Miami and alienated players and all the different qualities that the Jets basically ignored. You're picking Adam Gase to suit your argument. Now, personally, right. I want an offensive guy. That's just my opinion, but I just had to add that in there.
Yeah.
I think so as well. Now, with this being said, we're just going to bring up some callers. Quick fire, if you don't mind. You good with it?
Let it rock, man.
Rock and
roll. I was
going
to say real quick, Dan, I'm just going to plug in something real quick into the chat. Yeah. Sunday, me, my brother, Big Blue in the Bronx, he's sometimes in the chat, and our buddy Bad Takes Brian are doing a little year-end show. We're kind of doing a Giants-Jets therapy session. We're going to have some Giant fans on, some Jet fans on. So I threw the link in the chat for Sunday's call-in. Dom, of course, if you're available, you're invited as well. Dan, Liam, and anybody who else is in the chat, Jets fans, we're going to get your thoughts on the team. Basically a therapy session, year-end show, and it's going to start out with some gag gifts from me, Brian, and Alex. But it's going to be a lot of fun, so I just wanted to throw that out there. Awesome, 9 o'clock on Sunday.
Love it. We'll definitely be there. First up, Jose. What's up, Jose?
Hi. Good evening. Happy holidays.
Happy holidays, Jose.
What's up, buddy?
Hope you're doing well.
What you got? Yeah, I don't think you like the JJ McCarthy rumors.
No. Hell.
No, you don't like the Michigans.
No. I didn't like JJ in college. I don't like him as a pro. He's a game man.
But we don't know him as a pro.
In my opinion, he is game manager, and that's how he'll be.
So you're saying if there's a possibility that we get that Sam Darnold's out there and they keep JJ, you think the Jets are going to pull the trigger and get Sam Darnold back?
Would Sam want to come back? It's the question.
If the price is right.
Yeah.
I mean.
Well, I know prime time from Let's Talk Jets would be very happy.
Kevin was a big Sam Darnold fan. Very big, man. Big one. So
Luca, I will be there Sunday.
Okay, Jose, you're absolutely invited.
Very cool. Jose.
Guys, have a good night.
Later, Jose.
Oh, can I plug
Plug it in, baby. Go right ahead, my man.
Sports Talk with Jose Rodriguez? I will be back uploading tomorrow. I took a break for the holiday. Forgive me, but I will be back.
Forgive you, man. We forgive you. Sleepless nights here.
Tomorrow. Thanks, guys.
You got it.
Later, Jose.
See you later.
Go Seahawks, man. You got another Jet quarterback over there running it wild. It's like when they leave here, they become franchise quarterbacks.
Not really.
Yeah, okay. Yes, really. Just wait until Zach Wilson starts for the Denver Broncos. He's going to be like Dan Marino. No, you don't. You're not buying that one out, Jose. No.
No.
Have a good night,
Love
Jose.
you guys.
Love you, man.
Later, Jose.
Now with that, we're gonna bring on the man himself. I caught you off guard, man. Afram, what's
How
up,
are you,
man?
gentlemen? How you doing?
What's up, man? How are you?
Good. First of all, I want to say hi to Dom. This is the first time I've talked to him, but I've seen him on other podcasts, and I have to basically give you kudos for the amount of time and effort you put in all your scouting and everything, and in-depth takes on everything.
I appreciate that, man. Appreciate that.
No, very well deserved. I mean, you really put a lot of effort into it, and it pays off. Dan, I love
Yes,
you, but with JJ McCarthy. I've mentioned this before. We need money. We need cap money.
do.
And I don't need another year of Rodgers. I've said it, and I'm basing what I know from over the cap. You cut Rodgers post June 1st, and Devontae post June 1st. You're already at over $70 million. You get rid of Lazard and a couple of others, and you're close to $90 million, which we can use. Now, I don't like any of the quarterbacks coming in for us because I don't know. I'm just too worried that Woody's going to want to throw him into the fire right away. But having guys sit behind somebody, you have Tyrod. We talked many a time when we had a defense. Yeah,
This is big. This is huge.
When we had a solid defense, and when we said if we had competent quarterback play, our defense would win us games.
Right.
So why aren't we not going back to that model, rebuilding the defense a little bit more, make it more solid again, and then putting in a bridge quarterback for a couple of years with someone in the background, and if we can get quality, competent quarterback play, we can get back to where we literally could have been to the playoffs with the team last year if we had competent quarterback play. But we can't go. We're going from one extreme to the other constantly with this team. So we're surrendering one aspect of the team for another aspect of the team. We have a lot of quality players on both sides, but we can build close. We can build fast on the defense than we can build on the offense. But we have enough players on offense, and with that kind of money, we still got to sign some more players. And I think from looking at over the cap, 2026, because of those cuts, we have $160 million available to us, and then we can start playing around with some contracts where we can give a low 2025 year and then increase it over the next few years. That's up to the GM that we get, and if he's smart enough and he knows what he's doing, or hires someone who's very good with the money. Regardless of everything we talk about today, until they get a competent coaching staff, not just the head coach, a whole staff that's very competent for this team, we could talk to blue in the face. Nothing's changing.
It's true. Now, piggybacking off of that, I'm going to bring up a really sensitive topic here because it seems like it's a possibility, and I would hate it, but it's so toxic. That's the common narrative with the New York Jets, right? In the locker room, it's toxic. Garrett Wilson, is this a possibility? Because how things are happening, Aaron Rodgers is not even looking his way these past, in the second half, dude's wide open. He's looking for Devontae. Now, to your point, Afram, if Aaron Rodgers comes back in 2025, my gut feeling, Garrett Wilson will not want any part of it. And Aaron Rodgers is going to make it known. He's not a team guy. He's not a team guy. Anything for his own benefit, facade, which I find, again, that's what we get. And that's the type of person he is when we traded for him. That's the guy. He doesn't care. He goes from one side to the next really quick. And Garrett Wilson might be that odd man out. It sucks.
Well, here's how I'm looking at it. My opinion, if you get a competent GM, he doesn't want Rodgers on the team. if Rodgers remains on the team, and I'm solely speaking in my opinion, that means Woody put his foot down, and nothing changes again.
Right.
He doesn't give up control, and then basically this whole 33rd team thing that's going on means nothing because Woody still won't give up control, and he'll meddle and time. He may not meddle all the time, but when he does meddle, it's severe.
It is.
It affects us. So, you know, the guy who's coming in is going to see what he has and who he has to resign and how much money is in the bank. Okay? He's got to do something, right? He's going to want to build the team to his liking of what he thinks is going to be a championship team.
Right.
All right. So he's got to see, what am I gaining by keeping Rodgers for another year? Because you can't expect him to be playing till he's 47, 48, 49, 50.
Right.
He's not George Blanda. He can't kick the ball either. So,
well, I think that's why with the entire interview process, in order to see if Woody is capable of changing his nature, which is very difficult to do, is hiring top-level individuals at GM and head coach that will call the owner out, such as a John Dorsey. I'm going to go there, a Vrabel as a coach. You need high-character individuals there at One Jets Drive to put Woody in his place. Say
it's not a matter of calling him out. It's a matter of at the time when they're hiring, I'm only taking this job if I have full control and you step away. If you can't do that, I'm more, go look for somebody else.
right.
Those terms have to be set up front, not to deal with it later because you're going to lose later. Whether you could talk to, you can yell at the owner all you want. When he says that's it, he's going to fire you, and he's going to pull that same stunt. Well, this GM, this new guy I see the way the team reacts to him. Just like he said about Ulbrich, he'll just make up some PR bullshit, and these terms have to be set up front. That's how I see it. But you could fix this team. It shouldn't take it. These days doesn't take that long. As far as Garrett Wilson, it's like any other young wide receiver. They're going to ask for their money no matter what. They're going to still request a trade, even if things are good at this stage of his career. He's going to try to. He'll start the premise now, and then work his way with his agent to get his money. It's just normal business, from what I see. It's normal business. But of course, it's the Jets, and so the headlines, become, bigger than usual. So
well, the good thing is in that retrospect, Ephraim, is I don't think that, from what I understand, I think Woody Johnson is done with the Aaron Rodgers experience, right? So
I think so too.
If he is going to kind of be hands-on, I don't think he's going to want Aaron here. Yeah. Now, I also don't think you can't give me, outside of a really, really like outside the box defensive minded head coach like a Flores, who I don't think he's getting this job. I don't think he's getting a head coaching job because he's still suing the NFL. But
exactly
outside of that, a guy like that, I can't see anyone who would want to come in here with 1 year left of Aaron Rodgers, who has, previously really been coach killers, right? I mean, he got McCarthy out of Green Bay. He got into it with the older LaFleur over there, after McCarthy and so on and so forth. Like, Aaron Rodgers is not going to learn a new offense. Aaron Rodgers is going to want to run things the way he wants to run things. So right. I don't see a marriage, unless you're bringing back Ulbrich. I don't see a marriage that's really going to work with Aaron Rodgers here.
No one wants that.
Yeah.
No one wants that.
I think
there's no guarantee. There's no guarantee he's going to be playing fantastic this in 2025.
Yeah.
So
I will say one more thing also. You talked about getting rid of Rodgers in a post June 1st kind of manner. I personally wouldn't do that. I would take the whole lump right off the get-go and swallow the $49 million in dead cap. because then it's done. At least you know that the new GM, the new head coach knows what they're dealing with right here in 25, but the future looks completely clean. You're not dealing with 2 years of dead cap hits with Rodgers. You also, you don't get to use that money that if you designate and post June 1st cut, whatever savings you do get, you don't get to use it until June 1st. So free agency is all but done by that point, right?
Okay.
So.
Yeah, I'm just going by what I saw on over.
No, and what you saw and all that's right, but there's the context to that is yes, you get. I'm making up numbers. You might save $30 million, and you might be able to split the $49 million dead cap hit over 2 years, but you can't use that $30 million that you saved until June 1st. By that time, free agency's done.
But aren't they allowed the two exemptions?
They're allowed to use that post June 1st designation on 2 players in a season, right. Correct. But whatever savings that you do get, in your example, you said Rodgers and Devontae. So say you're saving 60, you're getting $60 million in cap savings by cutting them and designating post. You can't use any of that $60 million until June 1st. So, it's really better.
But you can play around with the contract that way, though.
What it allows you to do is it allows you to take that dead cap hit and split it into 2 years. So instead of taking it all in 1 year in 25, you can take half of it in 25 and half of it in 26.
Right. They can manipulate it and still get guys.
Well, they can't use that money's not available to them. It doesn't hit their cap, doesn't hit their bank for that matter until June 1st. So they can still get guys, but they can't count on that $60 million. Or if they come to an agreement with the guy, he can't sign until June 1st.
Yeah.
See, I want to throw go for it, my man.
Oh yeah, I was going to say real quick. I basically agree with your guys' thoughts. If I was the GM, my plan would not involve Rodgers next year. I don't like for Rodgers to be the bridge quarterback. Kind of sounds silly because. Yes, a lot has happened. Saleh got fired. Joe Douglas got fired. He got hurt. Rodgers in his first year. It sounds silly when you factor in that Rodgers was supposed to be the culture changer, the quarterback to get us back to relevance, to get us to win a division, to get us to win a divisional game, to get us to the AFC Championship, Super Bowl, all these different things. To have him be a bridge quarterback sounds really silly in my opinion. And I agree with you all guys, and I'm sure Armin agrees with me as well. I don't think there's a point to bringing back Aaron Rodgers. Like to win 9, like it's a crash course timeline if you call it, right? They'll say, okay, Rodgers was bad in the first part of the year because he was recovering from his Achilles. Okay, you get that excuse. And he's supposedly playing well now by some standards. Next year, he turns 42. So he's going to age. It's not a guarantee he plays great next year or good or even NFL average. You don't know what you're going to get. You don't know if Rodgers is coming back next year because he's still going to ponder that over. And that's a problem because you need to know for your GM head coaching search. If they ask, let's just say John Dorsey and Arthur Smith or a Todd Monken says to Woody Johnson, hey, what's going on with Aaron Rodgers? I don't know, man. I got to talk to him. They're going to be like, why would I want to take that job? Like, you need certainty with Rodgers. You need certainty that he's going to commit. And one of the problems I have was with Rodgers as well is I think maybe a little point he has a little bit too much say. Obviously they brought in Lazard. Lazard should be cut next year. But I also read in that big article, obviously you could believe it, you cannot. The Jets wanted to fire Hackett last year, but Rodgers objected against it, and then he stayed. So if he's going to come back next year, I don't want his fingerprints on anything. And I don't want him at all next year. That's just my opinion.
You also got to keep in mind that the new offensive coordinator might have a totally different scheme, and Rodgers is.
I don't think he's going to learn a new one. I agree with Tom.
I don't think he wants
He's
to.
Not going to learn it. He's not going to learn a new one.
No. With that, we're going to bring on Armand. What's going on, my man?
Hello, guys. How are you?
Good.
What's up, bud?
The blonde
so
bomber.
My one question is, the experienced head coaches like of Flores, of Rabel, they really haven't had a quarterback in their previous tenures. Obviously, we've heard the reports of Flores mistreating Tua because he didn't get his way of getting Herbert. And Rabel down in Tennessee, from Mariota to Tannehill to Malik Willis, really hasn't had a quarterback. And we've all stated we want an experienced head coach.
What if the experienced head coaches say they want to run it back with Rodgers? They don't want to come here for a full rebuild because they want to try to get to the playoffs. Like
it could. You're right. It could happen. I just don't know. I find it difficult to kind of pair up any head coach / GM that wants to hitch their wagon to a 42-year-old Aaron Rodgers.
John, I agree. I just they might look at it as they want to go to a team that can get them to the playoffs as fast as they can now. And I don't know if a bridge quarterback is going to get them there next year if you were to keep the rest of the roster as is.
Now, can I play devil's advocate here, right? Like I'm looking at a blueprint where maybe this might happen. Andy Reid left Philadelphia after how many years there, right? He was a staple with the Eagles. Enter, again, John Dorsey as a GM when he went to the Chiefs. He plucked them right out. They drafted Pat Mahomes. They sat him on the pine for a year and allowed an experienced quarterback in Alex Smith that 1 year. There was a culture shock, culture change in that building in Kansas City right off the bat. It was a winning culture right there. Now, who's to say that the Jets kind of repeat that mold? You get John Dorsey. Somehow, some way, you don't know. No one knows. Kyle Shanahan gets let go of the San Francisco 49ers. Keep in mind, San Francisco was also in that bid with like the dark horse of trying to get Aaron Rodgers. He comes in, paired with John Dorsey. They have a handshake agreement. You're only going to be with us that 1 year, final 3-year deal, right? The final one. We draft the quarterback, let him sit behind Aaron Rodgers, 2026. We'll repeat that mold. Again, I like Milroe a lot. Is he the next Pat Mahomes? No one knows who's the next one. But at least to me as a Jet fan, if you have a plan in place, that's all we ask for, a damn plan going forward. Kind of like what Mangini had when he took the job. You guys knew that we had something tangible when he took over. There was a strong draft class, a good mixture of veterans coming in. And when they had to pay for one, they did it. But there was a solid nucleus there with Revis, Harris. Everything was there. Leon Washington, that crazy draft class with Mangold and DeBrickashaw. Can we replicate all of that I'm saying with the possibility of getting a powerhouse like Kyle Shanahan if he shakes loose?
Anything's possible. Anything's possible. But, which way the cards are going to fall.
Mm-hmm.
I'd like to ask Dom, because I know he always talks about players and this. You're on the spot now, Dom.
Shoot.
You're GM and head coach. What are you doing to this team for 2025?
My first, I guess, order of business is calling in Garrett Wilson, petting him on the head, telling him how pretty he is and so on and so forth, and then paying him, whatever it is he needs to feel comfortable. Paying him early, giving him 4 for $120 million, paying him and letting him know that
he's going that option. Because you got to pick up his option.
Well, yeah, I mean, you can extend them and then have that extension start after year 4 and year 5 of his contract, right? So it would be year 4 is for X, year 5 is for whatever the 5th round option is, and then the extension would start from there. So, that's my first order of business is doing whatever it takes to lock in Garrett Wilson. The second order of business I'm doing is I'm probably I'm cutting ties with Aaron Rodgers and Devontae Adams, and I would love to keep Adams for a year if everything works out, but I think that's a package deal. So yeah. I'm just saying that they're a package deal. I'm moving on from them. I'm taking the hits now. I'm taking all the cap hit now. So I'm going to have, for those two guys alone, I'm going to have about $55 million in dead cap hit. But it's over once 2025 is over. And Devontae Adams alone, even though it's $8 million in dead cap, it frees up $35 million that I can use right now. Right. Aaron Rodgers, I don't know what the ramification is in terms of what money it frees up, but I'm moving on from those two. I'm signing Garrett Wilson to a long-term deal. And then I know this is probably against the norm of what everyone thinks, is I'm probably shopping AVT. I'm moving AVT. AVT is going to get paid $15.8 million next year for the 5th-year option. He's probably not a guy that I'm going to extend. He's not a guy that has shown that he's capable of staying on the field. When he does, when he has been healthy, he's been good. And there was flashes where you thought he was going to be really, really good. But I think that he's a guy on your team that is young enough that other teams are going to have interest for. The contract is nothing to be concerned about, because if another team trades for him, they're probably going to extend him. But I think he's going to probably net you the biggest return of any of the guys on your team. So if I can recoup a 3rd-round pick for AVT, I'll do that. Because I'm comfortable with what we have already on the offensive line. I would move Joe Tippmann right into that AVT spot at right guard, and I'd go draft the center. Those are or looking free agency for a center.
You think Tippmann probably be a good guard?
I think Tippmann's a very good lineman. I think he would be a much better. I think he'd be a better guard. Than a center. Just the way he moves in space, the way he moves. That's when he's at his best. The problems that he has right now as a run blocker is not necessarily because he's weak or whatever. He's just big. He's 6 foot. He's 6'6.5". So he loses the leverage battle. Think about the nose guards and the one techs that he play against. A lot of those guys are short, stocky, bull kind of guys that just get under him and lose that leverage battle. So I'm moving him over to guard, and I'm going to either draft a center or address center in free agency. So those are probably the first 3 things that I'm doing. Is I'm taking whatever 4 things, I guess. I'm doing whatever I can to re-sign Garrett Wilson, make him know that he's going to be the focal point of this team and a foundation piece for many, many years. I'm moving on from Aaron Rodgers. The collateral damage to that is I'm moving on from Tay Adams, and I'm gonna probably shop AVT around so I can
Lazard.
Lazard. I mean, I don't even think much about Lazard. I mean, he can go either way. I'm not gonna. He's not a guy I'm looking to keep.
No,
you have a lot of revamping to do. And that's the thing with this team. We talk about, is it a complete to the studs rebuild? No, because there's foundational pieces there. There's Garrett Wilson, there's Sauce Gardner, there's Quinnen Williams. There's Olu Fashanu, there's Joe Tippmann. There's a lot. John Simpson, I thought has been a revelation. I think he's he's by far a much better player than I thought we were getting. I like some of our young defensive guys. Leonard Taylor, I think, has a place, even if it's not as an every down player, as a situational guy on the inside, rushing at the passer. I think Eric Watts has a place. I think, you got to make a decision on Quincy because he's going to be 30 years old. He's in his last year of his contract. So you have some pieces, but you still have to fill a lot of. There's a lot of holes to fill, especially on the defensive side, right? You don't have any safeties under contract as of February 1st. You have 2 cornerbacks, 1 slot, and Sauce under contract. You hope that you get Jermaine Johnson back to where he was. You have Will McDonald, so yeah, you have some weapons on the defense. So there's a big overhaul that needs to be done in the wide receiver room, and I think in and the back end of the defense. So that's what I'm doing. You put me on the spot. That's what I'm going.
It's okay. No.
Now,
Good work.
If we trade AVT, right, that means not going to call it a fire sale, but you see a new tandem and GM head coach They want to mold the team their way. Do they look at Sauce's performance this year and say, you know what, if we can garner a first or a second, we're going to just sever our ties and go with it, or not? What do you think?
I don't think that that decision will be because of how he played this year. Listen, he was a an all pro, all NFL cornerback. He's still an extremely he's still, whether or not he's the best cornerback in the league, he's still arguably in the top 5 to 6 defensive backs in position. If the new head coach and GM were going to move on from him, I think it would be because they don't want to reset the market in the cornerback salary. They don't want to pay him $30 to $33 million a year. That could be, I'm not going to say I want to see it happen, but that to me makes sense. I don't think anybody's trading Sauce Gardner because he had a down year. It's like trading, Aaron Judge because he batted 250 one year, when every other year he bats 300 with 40 home runs.
I think once Rodgers leaves, and that whole locker room changes.
May I also add real quick with Dom's point about taking the medicine. Also, the Jets got to take some dead cap with all the void years that Joe Douglas added.
Yeah.
DJ Reed has a void year. Hassan Reddick has a void year. CJ Mosley is going to be a very important decision as well. Tyler Conklin is a void year. Quincy Williams. Quincy Williams could be on the team next year. Actually, let me pull up 2025.
There's $22 million in contracts that expire that have void years. $22 million that we have to swallow.
Makes sense.
Yeah.
I just want to introduce my good friend, Vinny. What's going on, man? Thanks for hopping on.
Thanks again for having me, guys. Just been listening. Before I begin, if I could just address the elephant in the room. Afram, why is your shirt blinking?
It's the camera.
I thought you were still in the holiday spirit.
No, I make a fortune if I could make a shirt that can light up back and forth like that.
It's a hologram.
You kidding me? I make a fortune. It's just this damn stupid camera that, unless it gets a full light, it'll compensate for either if it gets light or if it doesn't get light. It adjusts. So
awesome.
Consider it a holiday background.
I thought it was Avram's Christmas tree.
I like it.
That's it.
What's going on?
Plus,
Ben?
my head isn't rotating 360.
Oh no!
I mean, where are we at right now? I mean, we're going to stick with players' future contracts, quarterback situation, head coach search, GM search. I know I'm jumping in late.
No, I was just throwing Sauce in there because, I think that's the biggest dichotomy this year, because it's like he fell off a cliff. Last year, he was the number one, where so many of us were just comparing him to Revis. He's way better than Revis for year one, and then year two came in. This year, he's getting burned. He is. I mean, I'm sorry, Jet fans. It's not the same. But with that being said, if you get a legitimate head coach that knows how to coach up players, not just one side of the ball, I think Sauce will be an enormously amazing cornerback. But right now, we have no leadership. Nothing. We don't have an owner, a GM, a head coach, nothing. So it's like a free-for-all.
There's a lot of moving parts to it. I think it was Dom who said they'd like to keep him on there. I mean, you could look at it from both sides of the coin. Respectfully, I don't feel comfortable paying Sauce, $30+ million going into what I call a transitional year. And what I mean by that is I don't expect the team to make a playoff run next year especially if you're implementing a new scheme, undoing the new scheme. And on top of that, I would rather collect assets right now for the next regime. And if that helps us move up in the draft, if they are looking for a quarterback or another position of need, as far as that, stellar class that we all love that JD did, I would also even feel comfortable moving on from Brees. I think backs are a dime a dozen. I wouldn't personally draft one any higher than the third round. I think Garrett is a must in terms of paying. I think, where is he at? 3 or 4 consecutive 1,000-yard seasons in a row. And the only other Jet receiver in history that did that is George Sauer. You need some type of weapon for your new quarterback because Rodgers won't be here. And as far as JJ goes, I know he's coming off injury, but I think you have to pay him eventually because Hassan Reddick is not a Jet next year.
He is not. Finally, just give up that number 7. That number 7 belongs to a quarterback. I'm sorry, man. I just hate it that it's on a defensive guy. I get rules
I hate
change.
those NFL rules that they changed it now where they could wear like it's college football. I'm just used to that traditional like QBs can only wear 1 through 19 and so on and so forth.
Same here, man. And again, to your point too. I mean, this quarterback class right here. I know, Dom, you're gonna push back on this one, but I'm not a big fan on even developing this year's crop. I'd rather build up as much assets as possible for the 2026. Again, to me, the top 2 guys for me in 2026, if he decides to come out, is Arch Manning and Drew Allar. Again, I had no idea how good this kid was at Penn State. This guy he seems like a Josh Allen clone, totally raw. I get it. He's not one of those you draft and you just throw him out there. Another kid, obviously, we'll see how he is in 2025. He decided to come back to the Nittany Lions, but to me, get as much first rounders, second rounders, whatever the case is, because if you don't land a top 3, top 4 pick, you're not gonna land either of these two.
Yeah, and listen, to your point, Dan, I'm with you. I don't think this is a strong quarterback class, even close to a strong quarterback class. So I'm not pining for the Jets to take any of these guys. I'd much rather just, kind of sit and let the draft in this case fall to me and kind of adjust and take best player as it comes by. I don't think if you and there's no true, people use that term best player available all the time. There's no true GM that other than Mike McCagnon that really just takes the highest player on their board. That It doesn't work like that. There's usually some sort of blend of you're bored with a need on the team or a pipeline guy that's going to be a need in a year or two. So yeah, I mean, listen, I told you I like Shedeur Sanders. I don't think Shedeur Sanders is a fit for the Jets. I just happen to like him as a prospect. I don't think he's a fit for the Jets. He ain't coming here. We ain't getting up to 1 or 2 to get him anyway. So I think that's a moot point. I'd much rather sit back and roll the dice and take one of these guys in day 3 and let them come in and see what you got. I know a lot of guys in the in the scouting world and tied into the NFL are really high on Kyle McCord, the quarterback out of Syracuse. He's again another older kid. He'll be 23 he'll be 22 in April. I think he turns 23 before the season starts. But he's a guy that he's a day 3 pick. He's a round 4, round 5 guy that has some upside that could turn into a starter. Does some good things, has some big time throws. Has a good arm. It's not a perfect prospect in the least, but has some traits that you can the right coaching staff can hopefully develop and maybe you get something out of him. I'd much rather do something like that than sell the farm to get up to 1 or 2 to take Shedeur Sanders or Cam Ward, and neither of those guys have anything close to a surefire label next to them.
I'm going to stir the pot a little bit here, right? But before I do, I want to thank all you guys for hopping on here, all the listeners, everyone in the chat right here. If you haven't done so already, hit the like and smash the subscribe button. It definitely means a lot to us. I want to just stir it up a little bit. Oh, Luca, go for it.
I was going to say real quick, this guy actually just committed to the Senior Bowl, Dom, and I'm going to ask you about him. Jackson Dart, Ole Miss, your thoughts?
Interesting prospect. Definitely a traits guy. Definitely, super athletic, former safety, and plays like a safety, like has that mindset. Hasn't been playing quarterback all that long. He was a transfer. He started his career at USC before he came over to Ole Miss. I think the Ole Miss thing might hurt a little bit because Lane Kiffin in that offense, again, is not – it's really quarterback friendly and really a little bit hokey, similar to Heupel's offense in Tennessee where it's, everything is what receivers are schemed open. It's nothing
not a pro style offense.
It's nothing close to a pro style offense. So the numbers, people look at the numbers of the Jackson Darts or the Hendon Hookers from when he was there at Tennessee, and so on and so forth, and they go gaga over numbers, but you need more context to it. Listen, Jackson Dart has has an NFL arm. I think he has a good release. I think he has good, not great, but good ball placement and, throwing into tight windows and so on and so forth. He has really, really good pocket presence. Like, he moves around the pocket well. He's kind of got that keen sense to kind of avoid the rush when it's coming. And he's got the ability to beat you with his legs. So there's a lot to like in terms of the athletic upside and the traits of a guy like Jackson Dart. Plays a little too much hero ball for my liking. Like, is not a guy that, and to me, that's why I like Shedeur more than Cam Ward. Cam Ward is a ridiculous talent, ridiculous arm talent. Like, he's a young Brett Favre. But man, that hero ball stuff that will kill an NFL quarterback quicker than somebody who's a little too timid to throw the ball. And that's Jackson Dart. Yeah, Jackson Dart, it just puts the ball in harm's way too much. Again, still needs to work on his mechanics, not playing quarterback his entire life or at a high level his entire life. And, a double-edged sword of him playing with a lot of moxie and a lot that very physical is that he doesn't shy away from contact. Like, he sees a guy, he's going to run. He's not going to be one of these, like, run and slide or run out of bounds. Like, he's going to try to run you over. And that doesn't pose well for quarterbacks, especially guys who are, he probably 6'2", 205 pounds, 210 pounds, something like that. You know what I mean?
I want to turn up the heat on someone that I haven't been hearing from a little bit today, Armand. Armand, we've had our discussions for the past probably 3-4 episodes in which you bring up a great point where you say, you know what, you don't know what you're going to get with this draft class. I hate this draft class of the quarterbacks, but you're stating, you know what, look at past draft classes where it wasn't that popular and they hit off on certain franchise picks. You want to elaborate on that one and maybe make me a believer in this draft class?
Yeah, like the Jets in 2017 when we took Jamal Adams. They punted to go for the Sam Darnold, the Baker Mayfield class in 2018 when you had like 5 first-round quarterbacks. And then the 2017 class, you had Trubisky, you had Watson, you had Mahomes. Nobody knew what Mahomes was going to be. None of us did. Watson, he had his questions coming out of Clemson, and nobody really knew Trubisky after 1 season in college. But obviously, we see what Mahomes did and what Watson did down in Houston before going to Cleveland and obviously flushing his career down the toilet. But like in the 2018 class, Baker, I mean, for the Browns, it's a bust of a pick. Sam, it's a bust of a pick for the Jets. They have revitalized their careers, obviously. Baker, the past 2 years in Tampa. Sam, this year with Minnesota. You look at Josh Allen and Lamar Jackson since day one, going to Buffalo, obviously having the right coaching staff there, and Baltimore, the right organization, trading back up into the first round for Lamar. The 2 Pro Bowl quarterbacks. Josh Rosen is out of the league. He kind of got a raw deal in Arizona because of the OC now in Washington. He always stated that he wanted Kyler to be his quarterback. They ended up with the number 1 pick the following year. They took Kyler. Rosen got traded to Miami, and now he's nowhere near in the league. So you could have a class be favorable. Next year's class, you hear 3 or 4 quarterbacks, highly talented. They all could fizzle out. And we could be looking at Shedeur and Cam Ward, and they're 2 all-pros. They're 2 franchise quarterbacks. Or Jackson Dart gets to the right team with the right coaching staff. They turn him around. They fix his mechanics, and he becomes a franchise quarterback. We just don't know, not just with the quarterbacks, but with any position.
Dom, do you see a Jaden Daniels possibly in this draft possibility?
Meaning skill set wise, or somebody who's going to come in and really lead a team to the get go?
The latter.
Man, I think probably the closest one, if I had to put my money on a guy that's going to come in and kind of re-energize or revigorate a franchise, it's probably going to be Cam Ward, just because of his electric style of play. Like, the guy plays fearless. Like I said, he plays like a young Brett Favre, man. Gunslinger. It's worked out very well in college. Like, he leads college football in that analytic big time throws. He also leads college football in putting the ball in harm's way the most. You know what I mean? Turnover worthy plays. So it's guys like that who are feast or famine. He's a guy that I think could probably be that of this entire quarterback class, be that guy that can lead a team put his team on his shoulders and kind of take him over the hump. I wouldn't bet on it, but of this quarterback class, he's the guy that I would say is that.
Would you select him if you had a really good coaching staff that that could nurture him and let him sit for a year?
Sure. I would select him. I mean, I think he's a talented kid. Though it's funny, NFL teams trade, they're not fans. We're fans, right?
Right.
And we, kind of watch or listen or take things in more so a lot with emotion. NFL NFL scouting rooms and true scouts, there's no emotion tied to it. So, like I would say it's probably better to have a guy who's too aggressive and with the hope that you can tone him down rather than a guy that plays like, like he's scared to death to do anything and try to coach him up to be more aggressive. So, would I take Cam Ward? Sure, I'd take Cam Ward. I just don't think that, I think all the stuff that he's done in college, especially this year, I don't know how well it translates. Like, he's not going to be the best athlete on the field. He's not going to be the best player on the field like he was pretty much in all of his college football games. So a lot of those great plays that he made, those, off-platform scramble, rolling back and forth and gunning the ball, 40 yards across his body into the end zone for a touchdown, those are going to be either sacks or turnovers in the NFL. You know what I mean?
Hypothetically, let's take on this kind of seriously here. And hypothetically, if we had a chance to get Sam Darnold back on the Jets, I'm going to go one by one. It's a yes or no. Dom?
You need more context to that, Dan. Like, are we talking
franchise quarterback?
No.
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 Luca?
I'm going to say no.
Vinny?
No.
Armand?
Hell no.
Ephraim?
I don't think. I think it's a good fill right now.
Because we have too many holes. Mm-hmm. Like I said in the chat, he's going to cost about $45 to $50 million on his contract. How are you going to fill those holes? You're going to fill it more with young guys in the draft. And secondly, our offensive weapons are not as good as Minnesota's. Like, if Sam leaves Minnesota, we got to see what team he goes to and what they do around him. Like,
forget about the players next to him too. Like, I think we're downplaying like how good of a coach KOC is in Minnesota and that offensive staff. Listen, Sam Darnold's been where? He's been with the Jets. He's been with Carolina. He's been with San Francisco. He's never even sniffed close to this. So he didn't all of a sudden just get it. He stepped into a situation, like Armand said, where the weapons and the team around him was ready, but he's probably also around the smartest or the best offensive minds that he's ever been around in his NFL career.
I think it pays a lot the fact of where you land in this league. I mean, we gave the poor kid Gase to revitalize him. I mean, enough to say to that. And then if it can't get worse, he goes to Matt Rule, and you know what a garbage head coach he wasn't down in Carolina. Then I think what really satisfied Arnold a lot was that year he got to sit in San Francisco and learn from Kyle Shanahan. That I think was huge, and just take a step back and watch from the sideline from a true offensive mastermind. And then, you get to Minnesota and just everything kind of broke the right way for him with the McCarthy injury. It took a while, but I think a change of scenery is sometimes all a guy ever needs. But for him to come back here, I mean, let's be real. The New York media would never allow it with the jokes, the mono, the seeing ghosts. It'll never happen here again, ever. It's a shame because I like Sam. I just think we gave him a bad situation. With Zach Wilson, they gave him all the tools, and he still stunk. With that kid, I don't think most Jets fans will ever forgive him.
Yeah. Well, you look at when Sam Darnold was drafted. I mean, Mike McCagnon, people, either love or hated Joe Douglas, and you can feel however you felt about Joe Douglas. But Mike McCagnon didn't have a fucking clue how to build. I'm sorry, didn't have a clue how to build a,
Curse on here, Dom. You're all good.
He drafts Sam Darnold and then follows it up with a 25-year-old Nathan Shepard and a 24-year-old Foley Fatukasi. You know what I mean? He doesn't draft, he doesn't put any offensive weapons on him. So you put a guy on a team with absolutely nothing and handed him the keys and said, okay, figure it out.
Right.
Like, you talk about put in a position to fail. That was Sam Darnold being drafted to the Jets, right?
Yeah.
What they get?
McCagnon, if I'm not mistaken, Dom, he was looking at Darnold a year ahead. This is the same GM. He passed on Patty Mahomes for Jamal Adams. And when they asked him why they passed on Pat Mahomes, he said he did not view him as a franchise quarterback.
That's
Enough
crazy.
said.
And mind you,
But they viewed
Mike
Hackenberg
McCarthy,
as the franchise guy.
Yes.
but
They didn't give him
The
enough
best.
time.
Yeah.
the former Giants head coach wanted Mahomes. The one that got fired in season. What the hell?
McAdoo.
McAdoo.
Yeah.
McAdoo.
The big suit.
Well, there was somebody, and I forget who it was, but there was a big push in the Jets in 20 whatever that was 2017.
Yes.
There was a big push for the Jets front office to go ahead and make Mahomes the pick, but like was talked about, like McCagnon had just selected Hackenberg in the second round the year before, and didn't want to make that decision, didn't want to have egg on his face. So no,
But you know what? Let's play this game here. Let's say the Jets would have drafted Pat Mahomes. He would not be Pat Mahomes. He wouldn't. Now let's go back because the Jets have that in them. The Jets drafted Browning Nagel instead of Brett Favre, but because the Falcons selected Brett Favre. Let's say the Jets selected Favre. We would have made fun of that last name for the next 30 years. He would have never became this Hall of Fame quarterback ever. Yeah. So the Jets
do you see the reason why we need an offensive-minded coach? I'm going to pull what's left of my hair if we get a defensive-minded rookie head coach to draft a quarterback and then explain to the guy, please figure out how to develop a quarterback, even though you have no resume whatsoever doing that. And I'm only going to make an exception for Vrabel because Vrabel won in this league. But if it's Aaron Glenn, I might be done.
Same thing with Brian Flores. I can't stomach Brian Flores.
How many of you guys saw? How many of you guys saw Aaron Glenn's locker room speech to the Lions after? I almost cringed. It was so pathetic.
You can't. In my opinion, I don't know if you guys agree. I'm sure you do. You can't do a defensive first-time head coach. That would be you'd be repeating the same mistake. You hired Sally, you hired Rex, Herm Edwards, Eric Mangini, all in this century. All
Dan,
first time Todd Bowles.
Dan, let me ask you something. You've been a fan just as long as I have. You're about the same age as me. Mm-hmm. If Aaron Glenn doesn't wear a Jets jersey, does any Jet fan give a shit about Aaron Glenn getting interviewed by this team? Right. I don't. I could care less.
That's the thing with Woody. Woody has that as part of the interview process. Remember
when Woody hired Bowles and McCagnon? What did he say he loved about both of them? They were from New Jersey. Who cares?
Dude, I could see it right now where Aaron Glenn is being introduced at One Jets Drive in his original 31 jersey from 95.
Don't forget, guys. Aaron Glenn retired a Texan. He couldn't have cared less that the fact the Jets took him in the first round.
100%. Look, man, we're gonna start wrapping this up, but I'm gonna do a little rapid fire here. And number one, guys, thank you so much for hopping on here. Now I'm gonna go one by one. I'm gonna give you guys a list of head coaches. You guys choose one and give me a reason why you think that the Jets will hire this one, good or bad.
Will hire or that we would want?
No, will hire.
Okay.
Is this a coach or GM?
This is a head coach.
Okay.
And you got to put everything into it, whether it's Chris Johnson, Woody, who knows who the GM, Jets being the Jets. I'm going to throw it right in there. Dom, I'm going to give you the list first. I'm going to go Cliff Kingsbury, Arthur Smith, Mike Vrabel, Pete Carroll, Rex Ryan, Todd Monken, Brian Flores, Marvin Lewis, Kyle Shanahan, Ben Johnson, Aaron Glenn, or a wild card, Mike Tomlin.
Which one the Jets hire? Oh man. Well, I mean, listen, I don't think Shanahan jostles free from San Francisco, but if he was, you figure out whatever it takes to do him. I don't care if it's you trade 2 first rounders, you figure it out and get him in. Taking him out of the equation, I'd probably say, knowing that he's interviewed here before, knowing that the Jets that Woody has really liked him, and I think he kind of fits the opposite of what we had. I'd say Todd Monken in out of that list.
Love it. Luca, do you need to hear the list again?
So I'm picking one head coach that the Jets will hire and giving a reason for that. I just want to make sure.
Correct.
Yes.
Okay. I mean, Dom mentioned my personal favorite, Todd Monken, but that's besides the point. If the Jets are going to hire somebody, again, it's also a 2 to tango kind of scenario. Does the coach want the Jets? So I think it's going to scare me. I hope I'm wrong. I think the Jets are going to hire Aaron Glenn. I could be wrong, but I think he might go. You know what? I'll flip that. He's going to go to the Saints. I think the Jets are going to hire Vrabel, and they're going to say, you know what? Leader of men, has had success in this league. Maybe Woody puts his fingerprints on it, says, you know what? This guy can continue with Aaron Rodgers for a year. Hoping I'm wrong. Vrabel's my 4th guy personally on the list, but if I need to explain more, I can, but I think the Jets hire Vrabel.
All right. Vinny, you're up.
I was thinking about it for a while, but I'm going to agree with Luca and go with Vrabel for a different reason, though. As bad of an owner as Woody Johnson has been for the last 25 years with this team, believe it or not, he actually does want to win. And the thing is, he's very trigger happy, and he does listen to the fans, and he does follow our tweets, and God only knows if he watches these shows. So I think he's going to overpay to make sure that he secures Vrabel and, prevents him from going to Vegas with the whole Brady connection, or Chicago with being able to, inherit Caleb Williams. So I think he finally listens to fans. He goes and overpays for Vrabel and finally brings in an experienced head coach.
Armand, you're up.
I think he's going to go with Ben Johnson because I think Vrabel goes to Vegas. I think Pete Carroll goes to Chicago. I think Glenn goes to the Saints. And I just don't think Woody wants to pay for an experienced head coach. He has to prove me wrong.
What would it take, though, to get Ben Johnson? It seems like Ben Johnson has that kind of Gase-esque type of persona, which he might be a little bit of a dick. You know what I mean? But
this is Jersey. We're a bunch of dicks.
He fits right in. Perfect. Afram, what do we get?
I say Shanahan if he's available. Only because they've said it. They're looking for someone with an experienced head coach, no first timers, and he's been proven he's a winner. He wins. He wins with that team. He can plug and play guys in. He had Garoppolo winning. He's got Purdy winning. He's had other guys in that scheme winning. It's a system that works. He's proven it.
If we have the 5th overall draft pick, would you give that to San Francisco to get Shanahan?
Yes.
Panel?
Yes, 100%.
In this draft specifically, absolutely.
Draft pick for who? I'm sorry.
Kyle Shanahan.
Yes, absolutely.
You get Kyle Shanahan in the building, it would be just on the same level as almost when Bill Parcells came through the door. It would bring instant credibility to the franchise. People would respect.
Then why you guys didn't pick him when he told you what coach you're going to hire?
No, it's not what we would hire after him. It's what we think the Jets would hire.
Yeah, so the Jets are going to hire.
You had the choice. Dan gave you the choice of who you're going to pick.
But Afram,
I don't
But
trust him to
Afram,
hire
Afram,
Shanahan or
I'm
anyone.
listening. I'm just playing with you.
no, we know you're, but put yourself in John Lynch's shoes. Why would you let him go? Like, how are you a better team
It's
without
not
Kyle
Lynch's
Shanahan?
decision.
No, but
it would be ownership's decision.
we have to
I
go
don't
by
s-
the premise what Dan said. If Shanahan is out of the team, somehow out of the team, he gave you those choices. We're going by with the list of guys he gave us, and Shanahan was on that list. I'm taking Shanahan.
When's the last time a head coach got traded for a first round pick and has it been successful? Was that Peyton?
Sean Payton.
Okay.
Sean Payton.
I'll say yes. But
So, Armand, I saw you shaking your head on that one. Well,
I don't
is
believe
it
in
is it
trading-
too
I
steep?
I don't believe in trading draft picks for head coaches.
Why?
It really
It's the
doesn't
Jets.
work
They're
out.
gonna fuck them up anyways.
We did it with
Doesn't work out,
Parcells.
though, Vinny.
We did it with
Like, we're
Parcells,
still
man.
gonna
Yeah.
see what Sean
Well,
Payton
Armin,
But we
does.
had to.
this
That
is
was
the
that the league got involved with that one.
Yeah,
All right.
that was a very weird
That was
situation.
to lower the heat that was going on and the fighting between the Jets and the Patriots.
Patriots.
I'm
With
going to
Armand.
make I'm going to make this sweeter for you, Armand. Would you, again, same premise, giving up a first rounder for a guy like Kyle Shanahan? Would
I'm
you?
saying yes. I'm
would
saying
you-
yes, and I hope it works out. I hope
Would
we
you
get a
trade
Super Bowl. I hope
Will
Russell gets
McDonald
quarterback with it.
for Shanahan? You would,
Yes.
right? 100%.
Yes.
Just to change the culture in that toxic locker room, that building. There's nothing there. To me, I'm done with first rounders. If you can give me a head coach that can change the culture of this team in a heartbeat,
I think Kyle Shanahan will bring the offense in one season into the top half of the league, regardless of who the quarterback is.
We know
100%.
Garrett would stay then.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. So would Aaron Rodgers.
Well, I don't think Garrett's
No.
going anywhere anyways. But
So
that
would
contract,
Aaron
he's
Rodgers
got
would stay.
he's got no
After the
leverage
quarterbacks
anyways.
that
Garrett's going to be
Shanahan
on this
has
team
had,
next
he
year.
hasn't had a talent like Rodgers.
I'm telling you,
And
Shanahan
he
wants it.
hasn't won the big one yet. That's the one criticism we could say with Shanahan. He hasn't won the Super Bowl.
It's come damn close.
He'd win it with Aaron Rodgers.
Oh my God.
Are you all right? This is to everybody else. Do you do that if Shanahan says, "I want Rodgers"?
Yeah.
Whatever he
Rodgers-
wants.
Rodgers can't play forever. You know, Shanahan
they-
might coach another 5 to 10 years.
Mhm.
There's going to be a plan after Rodgers, so I think Shanahan, knows what to do.
Absolutely. Now, with that, I'm going to wrap it up. Dom, again, thank you, man, for coming on the show. If you want to
Oh, man.
just let everybody know where they could find you, man.
No, my pleasure, man. Anytime. It's always, like I said, it's always a pleasure, Dan, to come on and shoot the shit and talk ball. Right now, I got a bunch of things in the hopper, so I got some really good news coming out soon. I don't want to say anything now because nothing's been finalized yet, but for now, you can catch all my draft content on Project Prospect with Dom C podcast, draft breakdown, prospect breakdowns, positional groups, all that stuff. Anything NFL draft related, 24/7, 365 is on that channel. And I also co-host a Jets show on Monday nights on the Talking Jets Network with Ryan from Jets Talk 24/7. That's at 8 p.m. and with Green Bean and Gunny on Thursday nights for the Thursday Thick of It.
Love it, man. And now, Luca, if you just plug it in one more time for Sunday special.
Yes, I guess we could call it the Sunday special. First of all, Dom, it was nice talking to you again. We're going to be seeing each other down at the Senior Bowl. It's going to be a lot of fun. So what I've posted in the chat, this is all for you guys to come on the show Sunday night, 9:00. Obviously after all the afternoon games and stuff, middle of the Sunday night football. Who cares? But Giants Jets therapy session. My brother runs Big Blue in the Bronx. Go check it out. You guys I'm pretty sure most of you guys have actually been on the channel. It was obviously when we were doing our Boys in the Big Apple show, but regardless, it's going to be a Giants Jets therapy session. I want as many Jet fans on there as possible. We'll be talking about the team. We're just trying to get your guys' thoughts and, just a therapy session, whether we win or we lose, and just talk about our misery. And you guys are all great. Obviously, you guys in the chat, you could join it as well. Even if you don't want to call in, comment. We'd love to hear your thoughts.
I love it. Again, big thank you to Vinny, Armand, Afram, all you guys, everybody in the chat. Don't forget to hit the subscribe, hit the like button. And we will see you next Thursday night at 9 p.m. Tonight was a special Friday night special. And again, guys, happy belated Merry Christmas, and we will see you next year.
Nice
Have
to
a
meet
great
you,
New
Dom,
Year's.
for the first time. It was a
Happy New
pleasure.
Year. Likewise.
Happy New Year, guys.
Quarterback, Ken O'Brien of California Davis. Just 14 that first time, now going long. They got a wide open man, and he makes the catch. It's Braylon Edwards taking off. Braylon Edwards will take it home for the touchdown. 80.
First down in San Diego territory at the 47-yard line. Big draw. And Pennington going for 6.